So, okay, I want to do a little demonstration of how you can get inspired by the Overtone series in order to write a composition, okay? And in this case, that is, again, the Overtone series as it appears in nature. No, nothing really to it, no big deal. Then that was my starting point right here. I just picked 5 notes. And that becomes really the complete content of my composition. Sounds a bit crazy, absolutely. The reason why this is not picked randomly is the octave number 3, because these are scale tones. So I have a very good relation to vertical structures, but I also can use this as a melodic line. Okay, so I have opened some great doors to horizontal writing and to good vertical structures. That was my intention, really. So they have not been picked completely randomly. And these are the 5 notes again. So the first thing that I really did was I analyzed the distances between those notes. Okay, so, and these notes or these numbers right here, they only refer to chromatic distances, to chromatic steps between those notes. So from an E to a G, obviously, that is 3 chromatic steps, and so on. So this is what we call the horizontal formula to this line. Okay, it's 3, 3, 2, 2. And that is something that I want to use as my base of thinking. And I want to be inspired by that formula, because this formula is supposed to become my glue, my red line through the composition. So the first thing that came to my mind was, okay, what if I used this horizontal formula as my baseline? Because why not? So I started on an E, because this falls into the bass register, right? And I'm sticking to the bass register here. If you recall the first octave of the Overtone series, this is all in between my bass range. So the second step was, okay, let me reverse that formula, right? So instead of going up from a note, like 3 up, another 3 up, 2 up, another 2 up, I've picked a note and I went 3 down, 3 down, 2 down, and 2 down. So it's basically a reflection of my original horizontal formula. And the next thing was I have left some space between those 2 lines, of course, for the reason that I can bring in some notes for harmonization, okay? And the funny thing is really, when you look at how I've harmonized these notes, they are harmonized completely in parallel. It's all the same structure. And that is, when you look at this structure here, we count these structures from bottom to top. Always. Whenever you see a number plus another number, it's always a structure that is being counted upwards from bottom to top. Always start on the bottom note. So in order to get this structure from my line, from my lead line, I have to count these numbers in reverse. Get it? So from this F sharp, I'm reading 2 down, that is E. From my E, I'm reading 3 down, that leads me to C sharp. From the C sharp, 3 down, I'm getting to A sharp. Okay, and that is the process that I've applied to any of those notes from my lead line. So that is how I got to these guys. Then right here, in this last structure, you see the D root tone, right? And you see probably the E flat above. The distance from D to an E flat, that is an octave plus 1 chromatic. And that is what we call a 13. And the 13 is a special interval, really. Mainly for the reason that whenever you play it to somebody who does not really understand much in music theory, I'm very sure he will determine and recognize that interval because it sticks out in a very dissonant way. So that is the reason why we call this a 13. We call this the producer's interval, okay? Because producers who usually don't know much about music, but they are giving the money for the production, so they are interested, of course, in getting a good result. They have a talent to recognize 13s because they stick out in a bad way. And so that is, it's a little joke, I know, but that is why we call this the producer's interval. So a 13, it gets recognized very easily because it does not appear in the Overtone series. Let me just show you this real quick. When I go up to, well, I can actually use this guy here. So when we start on a C note, you won't see a D flat. That would be our 13. There is no D flat, right? So a 13 does not appear in the Overtone series, and that makes it a bit weird sometimes. There are ways how you can use it. The easiest way is probably known from jazz theory, and that is when you put it into the context of becoming a flat 9. So a flat 9 sounds great, actually, but that is for a reason. And the only reason really being that a flat 9 has support from scale tone -7 underneath it. So you go from a -7 to the flat 9. And when you look at these structures, they are all part of the world of diminished triads, which is what we call a 3+3 structure. That's a dominant structure. That's why it works. I'm digressing. We can cover these things in a separate live stream if you want me to, not a problem. But for now, I just want to point out that here's a 13. So if it doesn't bother you, you don't have to fix it. But we want everybody to be aware of 13s in general, because usually in mainstream writing they don't do any good. So the next thing right here, this is very colorful, I know. It's always the same structure from above. The only thing that I've done from this line to that line is applying voice leading rules. I haven't changed any notes though. So these are still the same notes from above. You can pause the video, you can check it if you don't believe me. But these are the same notes. So the point is, from now on, I just want to refer to these colors, okay? And they are basically all the same structure, as you can tell from above, set in context with a different root, but they are basically the same thing, moving in with voice leading right here. So let me just play you this little sketch for now. And as you can tell from the colors, right, you can basically see where things come from. So the part in red here, well, guess what? That's our horizontal formula. At least a portion of that, right? 3, 2, 2. The horizontal formula originally was 3, 3, 2, 2. So that's just a portion of that. These little things, chromatic leading tones, love them. I'm using them all the time. That's really amazing. This stuff here, yeah, I can actually cut my horizontal formula, and I take the first 2 numbers, which is 3 plus 3, right? And then I take the second the second 2 numbers, which was 2 plus 2. So I can simply divide my horizontal formula into segments, and that's what I did right here, and use this as a little introduction, really. So let me try something and play you this thing. First as a piano sketch, as you can see it right here, and then how I orchestrated the whole thing with the orchestra. So let's see. Hopefully you can hear it now. Okay, so that was the sketch, and down here, this is the whole score. As you can tell right here, these are the woodwinds, the French horns, so the brass section, a harp, the string section, and that is the whole score for, I don't know, 10 pages or something. When I play you this score, I actually want to refer to the sketch again, because this is way easier to follow. I don't have to scroll that much, and you probably won't see it anyway when I keep on scrolling all the time. And I in this little live stream here, I want you to focus on the sound, the development. That is the orchestral version. We call this a development. This is quite close to the actual sketch, so you will have no problems really following the orchestration just by looking at this sketch here as well. So let me fire this up. Yeah, that's the orchestration, my little mock-up. So basically, that is my 10-minute live stream, which became 30 minutes. Sorry for that. Hopefully, let me stop sharing the screen here. For me, that was basically a test for some future live streams that I want to do in order to show you interval theory in application, a little bit of knowledge behind it, in order to show you ways how you can get this knowledge, of course. And it should be a little bit of entertainment and fun as well. So guys, many thanks. I'm turning out. Have a good night. Bye-bye.